Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs. From the smallest feists to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. This week, we're going to take a break from the Great American Outdoor Show series. This past weekend, I was traveling and I also ran into some technical issues as I was trying to get the new episode up. This episode was previously released on the Hound podcast. We should be back to new episodes next week. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here tonight with my buddy Brian Messersmith. How you doing tonight, Brian?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Brian is an avid bobcat, lion, and bear hunter up in the northern panhandle of Idaho. He runs mostly red bones, a couple other crossbred hounds. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're running these days, Brian?
Yeah. You're right on point with that. I do have mostly purebred red bones, and then I got a few other dogs that are like a Walker red tit cross and a red bone blue tit cross. But I'm not, definitely not opposed to any one breed. But I just have a special spot for red bones when I started getting into running them.
Mm-hmm. So you're about ready to start your hunting season because you've been guiding now the last couple of years, so you're about ready to get started with that. What's your season look like?
Yeah. So as far as the hounds go, I guide during spring bear season, and I guide in the winter time on cats. And that's around the Hell's Canyon area of Idaho, between the Snake and Salmon River. In the fall, we do have a bear hunt that goes on, and I'm actually not doing that right now because I had already started doing previously wilderness elk hunts. So this fall, here at the end of August, I'll head over there and start packing in with horses and mules and be guiding elk hunts during archery and rifle season. So it should be pretty fun, but by the end of that, I'll definitely be looking forward to getting back with my dogs and getting cat season rolling.
Now, I know you have a pretty sweet side-by-side setup. You ever run your hounds with horses or mules?
I haven't done that. I haven't done that yet. It's something that I've been intrigued by. Um, I've seen a few guys that do it. I believe an outfitter. I bought my dog box from a few years ago, Cody Henson. I'm pretty sure he uses mules sometimes. I thought that'd be something great to do.
Mm.
I've a few times tried going out with a boat. I've taken a boat out and then done the whole just hunting off a foot once I get to a spot,
Okay.
hunting off a foot, and that was a lot of fun. But
Now, is that hunting along a river or a lake or what?
yeah, I launch off of a river and I drive across the river to one of these small lakes. I just go up to the base of the mountain and start just hiking around. Usually, in certain spots that I know the bears cross really quick, it's within a mile of hiking that the dogs strike and take one out.
Nice.
Um, yeah. One of the locals 2 years ago, him and I were hunting together, and he got a bear. We're chasing the dogs all around the mountain. Fortunately, they have a lot of these old logging roads that there's no access because it's all gated and locked off, so there's no access for vehicles. But it did make walking for us a lot easier because we can hop on these old logging roads and just try and keep up with the hounds that way for a good portion of the hunt. He ended up taking a bear, and it was a mile from the boat where he had gotten it. So after that, we packed it out, and
I believe I remember seeing pictures of that in
yeah,
in
yeah,
your post about that on Facebook.
yeah. I do have a picture of that on my Instagram
Okay, that's what it
at the
was.
Hound Father. Yeah, it was a pretty interesting hunt, that's for sure.
I've been trying to convince my wife to let me get a mule, but coon hunt and bear hunt off of, but just the practicality side of it, it's really not there.
Yeah,
Don't really need one for where I hunt. Now, if I hunted with you, where
yeah,
you hunted, I'd probably get something.
Yeah, there's some areas it would be really cool. Idaho is extremely diverse. Like North Idaho is, I mean, really thick. A lot of woods. I mean, really thick. But there's also a lot of roads because of the logging industry.
Mhm.
So you can pretty much drive anywhere on a if you're bear hunting, in a pickup or a four-wheeler, especially if you have a four-wheeler for these smaller two-track roads.
Yeah.
Um, and in the winter time, either on a side by side with tracks or a snowmobile or four-wheeler with tracks. But then there's areas a few hours south of me that is completely different. Like uh, the upper elevations are more wooded, and then the lower elevations are more desert-like. Like when I was guiding there this spring, I saw probably in the 1 month like a dozen rattlesnakes,
Jeez.
and we don't have any of those up here in North Idaho. So, uh, and then you get in other parts of Idaho, and it's like rolling hill, kind of speed goat, yeah, antelopes and stuff. So it's yeah, pretty diverse. So you have all kinds of different hunting that you can do
Yeah.
around here.
We'll get into this a little bit later how we met, but where we coon hunted, where we would park at that one parking lot, and it went down that long. They had the road and it went down to the lake. It was about a mile down to the lake.
Yeah, then is that where we climbed up a hill and then it dropped down?
Yeah, well, that was on the other side of the lake, but yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
same property, just opposite sides. But all that, it's gated off to where you can't have vehicle access. But that's why I kind of was like, if I got a mule, I could ride anywhere in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be sweet. It's fun. I mean, it's nice being able to access, yeah, but does make it difficult. Some people it's a lot easier to do, uh, especially if you had access like out west to some of these ranches and stuff where there might not be many roads, but there's uh, a lot of riding that you can do and access that you can get into with a horseback would
Yeah,
be sweet.
I just always thought it would be cool. I remember growing up, and I knew somebody that coon hunted years ago, and her and her ex-husband, and she showed me a lot of pictures of when they used to coon hunt off of mules, and I always just thought it was the coolest thing. So
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and they can definitely see better in the dark, riding them in the dark than you can.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, they're amazing.
I just saw. Is that your mule that Colton was on?
Uh, that mule wasn't mine. I had my horse the day before he was on.
Okay,
Colton's my son. But yeah, yeah, that's a buddy's mule that I'll be taking with me while I'm guiding this fall.
good deal.
Yep.
So let's get into how we met. We met. What's it been now? I don't know. Probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, well, Charlie and Colton, they were
I guess it'd
really
be.
young.
Yeah, I guess it would have been like
Colt,
4 years ago because Charlie's
four.
4, and I don't think he
Yeah,
was a year old.
no, he wasn't, and Colton's 5 years old right now, and he was just really young. So,
Yeah, it'd been
yeah, it was definitely I think
about
about
four
four
years
years
ago.
ago.
Mm.
Yep.
It's pretty bad when you have to gauge it by your kid's age because you can't remember.
Yeah, yeah, that's the easiest way for me to remember. But yeah, I'll get on that. So basically, obviously, I live in Idaho, and you're over in Pennsylvania. How Ben and I met, uh, I I was in the military for a while. I was serving in the Army in the 101st Airborne, and I ended up getting injured in Afghanistan in 2013. The first severe injury was on um, June 3rd of 2013 by a suicide bomber and a bullet to my helmet. And then I stayed overseas because of the amount of casualties we had. Uh, and a month and a half later, I was injured the second time. And that was from a rocket that unfortunately went through my squad leader and into myself. I had to relearn to walk and talk and do physical therapy and occupational therapy, and recovered at Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland, right by Washington, D.C., for 18 months. And that's when I ended up meeting my wife. She was working at a Texas Roadhouse as a waitress at the time. And when I started being able to walk and everything, um, I wanted to get out a little bit, and I ended up meeting my wife, and we just kind of went on dates and stuff. And once I moved back to Idaho, we went and visited each other a few times. And after we got married, now we go to Pennsylvania every year to visit her side of the family. Her dad lives in Pennsylvania, and her mom and other family lives in New Jersey. So one of the trips when I wanted to go to Pennsylvania, I thought I'd look on Facebook and try and find a local coon hunting club that would be around close to my father-in-law. And I met Ben on one of those Facebook groups. Is it called Berkshire Coon
Chester
Club?
Burke's Coon Hunters. Yep.
Yeah, Chester Burke Coon Hunter. So I met him on there, and uh, we talked a little bit, and he set me up with the first time with one of the members over there, and him and I went and hunted together. I think the first time was with Brian.
I think you hunted with
Uh,
Webby and Whitey the first night.
Yeah, Webby and Whitey. Yeah, you're right. Yep. So the first time I hunted was with Webby and Whitey, and then we went out with this dog Abel I had, and after that, Ben and I had linked up, and we started going, pleasure coon hunting together. And I went back the following year, and we did some coon hunting again.
You haven't been back
Pretty,
since.
no, it's unfortunately been a while. The last time we were going to go back, we were planning, and that was at the start of the whole COVID thing, and so we didn't end up going back at that time. And then this year, I wanted to go back, but with guiding trip coming up, and I wanted to make things easier on my wife for this winter. So I was selling some of the goats we had and cows, so she didn't have to deal with them while I was gone.
Gotcha.
Not only this winter, but also this fall season.
Yeah.
So she did fly back. My wife and son, they flew back, and they spent 2 weeks over there. And I foresee in the future we'll probably definitely at least be making one trip a year over there. Probably, hopefully, more like two.
Well, at the same point, when you came here 4 years ago, you had 2 hounds. Now you've got a whole pack.
Yeah, you're right.
And you didn't have a farm either.
I had Abel and I had Star. Star was really young, and now, so after that, it would be when I started accumulating a lot. It would have been Abel, Star, and Buck. I got Buck, which is Star's litter mate. I didn't get him until he was a year and a half old, and he had never even been in the woods. The person was supposed to hunt him, but he never ended up going in the woods. So the Abel, Star, Buck, and they're all finished. And then Annie, she's a purebred red bone, and Arrow,
That's when it went
he's a
downhill.
little bit younger. Yeah, purebred red bone. And then Bocephus is my most recent one, and he's I think he's about 6 months old right now, or close to it.
Is that your Annie pup?
Oh, and Pepper. Pepper is my Annie pup.
Okay.
So yeah, so Bocephus came out of my buddy Sean Brophy and our friend Matt. They both have really good red bones that they crossed together, and I kept a male pup out of that. That's Bocephus. And then Pepper is out of my Annie dog, and Josh Haynes he's in Montana, out of his rooster dog. So they made a good cross.
Good deal. How old's Pepper now?
She's under a year old.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking she was younger, but
yeah, she's I don't know, 10 months, somewhere around there. Bocephus is like 5 or 6 months.
I guess last time we talked to me, it was in the spring, and I think you were just about to get him. Because he was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
Because for all you people listening, this is the second go round of this podcast. Because Brian was gracious enough to be my first podcast guest, and I botched the recording. So this is 2.0. Now, 4 or 5 months later.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, when you went through your whole history of meeting your wife and how we met and everything, I just want to say thank you for your service, Brian. For everyone out there that's listening, Brian's a freaking beast and went through a lot, and he deserves way more thanks and applause and everything than I can ever just say. But just letting everybody, I mean, most people out there obviously don't realize that, but you've went through hell and back. You've showed me a lot of pictures, and we've talked a lot about your recovery and everything, and it's intense, and I couldn't even imagine going through what all you've been through. So I just really want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I know, uh, definitely things are with the military. A lot more people are gracious of uh, service members than they used to be. Of course, with the like how the Vietnam veterans and
Hmm.
stuff were treated, but there still is a fair share of people that have no respect for anyone that's in the military, and that's unfortunate.
Oh, absolutely. So I hunted a lot with your dog Abel. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about Abel a little bit because, like I said, he's the one I really actually got to hunt with, and he was making a good coon dog in the 2 months you were here.
Yeah, so I'll briefly go into a little bit of my history with hound hunting, but I've been into hound hunting for uh, been interested in it since I was a kid. My uncle's always had hounds, and so I was always intrigued by hound hunting, and I've gone with um, my uncle a lot, my cousin, and I had another friend that I lived with for a while when I was in school. Um, and I had one of my own dogs, but mainly ran with other people and just a single dog that I had. But and then I joined the military, so I got out of hounds for a while, and then when I got back into hounds, um, Abel was one of the first dogs I'd gotten as a puppy, and I mean, I'm when I put my mind to something, I'm like really serious about it. So it doesn't matter if I just had one dog, I was gonna give that dog everything I have. So I got Abel, and he was just a very good dog. Extremely cold nose. He was half blue tick, half red bone, all the red in color. But and good medium speed dog. But he had an extremely cold nose on him. And before I came over there to Pennsylvania, I hadn't really done much coon hunting with him because of the fact that we just don't have a lot of coons around here. So the first time when we were going to be going out, I did a little bit of coon drag training with him, and um, the first night I went out, I actually ended up treeing one. I remember the guys I was with, they thought maybe he was running a fox, and I told them, I'm not going to say he's not. He's still a young dog, and I can't say he's not. I don't have fox over there, to break him off of. But he ended up trailing from where we were to the lake was quite a long ways, and he went all the way to the lake, and you still hear him opening up, and he's not burning it, but he's really extremely cold trailing. And one of the other dogs went out with him and was like thinking like, "What's this dog doing?" And it went and hunted its own. And Abel kept opening up. He got to the lake. He worked the edge of the lake, and he came all the way back around, and he ended up treeing it. Before that happened, I mentioned, I'm like, well, I mean, he is an extremely cold nosed dog, and they're like thinking maybe possibly it was a fox, and I wasn't gonna rule that out, but he showed up treed, and we walked over to the tree, and sure enough, he had a coon there, and like I said before, he's not a coon dog, and he's just a good coon. I mean, he's a good pleasure dog. He'll definitely put coons up for you. But
Oh
I did
yeah.
a little bit of training and stuff with the dragon. I went out that first night, and he put one up, and that was awesome. They're like, "Oh, I'll be damned. I guess he is a really cold nosed dog." And from my understanding, um, most people in certain areas, like and especially in the coon hunting world, from my understanding, they don't desire an extremely cold nosed dog because of whether you're dealing with smaller chunks of land that you're hunting or private properties, and especially if you're competition hunting, like
Oh yeah.
you want them to bomb into the woods, hit that hottest track, and put up as many coon in a certain period of time as possible, and that's just not what Abel is. He took the very first tracks that he hit, which just happened to be a super cold track, and trailed it a long ways all the way to the water source, and you know, for a while, and ended up putting it up though. But
Now he made a good coon dog, and like I said, I remember opening night of our season. Me and you were hunting up on that, like you said, where we park and go up that hill. I remember getting a phone call from one other guy that hunts around here. He's like, "I see your truck, but that's not your dog, unless you got a new dog." He knew that my dog didn't have that big old ball mouth that Abel had.
oh yeah, big old train horn.
He did. He's like, "Your little
Yeah.
cur dog definitely doesn't have that kind of mouth. What do you got up there?" It's like, "Oh, you like my new hound?"
Yeah, he's I mean, he's always been very solid. Everything he's totally finished. I mean, yeah, I would call him a finished coon dog. I wouldn't put him in competition hunt, but he would be a finished coon dog. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to go coon hunting, you're gonna put coons up. If I want to go bobcat hunting or bear hunting or lion hunting, he can do it all. Um, he treated the first bobcat by himself. He was almost 8 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember
that was
he
his.
was he was pretty young when you came here. He was maybe a little over a year, I guess. And you were
Yeah,
telling me
yeah.
about his first cat season and
Yeah,
how
so he
well
had
he
his
had
first
done.
cat season, and he and I ran a decent amount with my cousin, and I ran by myself too. But he was at done his first bobcat at 7.5, almost 8 months old, by himself, and he was under a decent amount of lions that first season. And his first bear season, I had him on 16 bears. At the time, I was running someone else's dogs because they were gone in another state. But I knew I wasn't gonna have those dogs forever. So anytime I started a race, my goal was to always start with him. Like I didn't want to start with other dogs. I always wanted to start with him because I wanted him to be um, like a dog that can do everything and doesn't depend on anyone else. So
Mm-hmm.
if I got a strike or something, or if I was turning loose off of bait or however I was doing it, I would always start the track with him, and then I would kick other dogs in. But I think his first season, there were 16 bears, and a handful of them he treated, solo by himself,
Wow,
and then there were
impressive.
several of them that he treated with other dogs. But every single one of those bears, I started him on the track every time.
Very cool. If you don't mind, I don't even know this. I mean, but I know you recently lost him. What happened there?
Yeah, not to get really into details, but yeah, I did lose him under unfortunate circumstances. He definitely gave it gave it his all. I can't say for sure exactly what happened, but I just know that when I showed up at the tree, he was paralyzed, and there was a bear there. He was he couldn't lift his head up or his body up or anything, but he's still just looking his eyes up at that bear. He couldn't bark or anything.
Wow.
I packed him under my shoulders and got him off the mountain. Fortunately, I wasn't able to get him to the vet in time before he had passed in my lap.
Hmm. Sorry to hear that. Like I said, he was a great dog.
Yeah, he was amazing, that's for sure. And yeah, I mean, I was always gonna get back into hound hunting, but he definitely made it a lot easier for me to
Mm-hmm.
do that. And he was an outstanding dog, and I wouldn't mind owning a dog like that again. I do have dogs that I would like a person would consider higher power just because of their speed and how they do certain things. But he had no quit in him. He had plenty of grit. You could put you can run any game with him by himself. Bear doesn't matter, whatever. He would do everything by himself, and if it took all day, if it was one of them running bears sneakers on, he was gonna stay on it all day. But
Mm-hmm.
he's just not a super fast dog, and you get a strike. He cruises pretty good, but he's just not bombing into the woods.
Mhm.
But he was a very solid dog and an exceptionally good pup trainer. I think he was a year and a half old by the time he was training the first dog, the following dog that I got. I mean, he
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
maybe a year and a half old when he started training that dog. So he's trained pretty much most of the rest of the dogs that I have. I was very happy with him.
Yeah, he was a nice solid dog, that's for sure. I really enjoyed hunting with him, and I was definitely looking forward to, some point getting out there and seeing him under a bear or a lion or whatever. I'm sad that I won't be able to get to see that, especially,
Yeah,
under the situation that, in circumstances.
yeah,
It's never easy losing a dog when they're younger
and he was
in their prime.
yeah 5 years
Mhm.
old. Yeah. So now I would call. It's hard to say lead dog, because if I have a dog, I could take any one of the dogs, and I don't need what you would call a lead dog. I wouldn't need to have Annie to start a track. I could leave her at home, and I could just run a bear with most of the other dogs by themselves, unless it's, of course, Bocephus, who hasn't been trained yet. But even Arrow, this was his first bear season, and this past winter was his first cat season. So he had a cat season and then he had a bear season, and
Mhm.
he's turning out to be a very fine dog. And I know I can go out with him by himself and uh, tree a bear by himself or tree a cat by himself, and he's a little over a year old.
Yeah, but with
Uh,
that said,
Annie
yeah,
is the dog that I would say is like my all star.
exactly.
She's the best dog I personally ever had, and she does everything. So do the other dogs, but she just does it to a different caliber. I've struck, bobcats when I'm bear hunting before, and you know pretty quick when you're in a bobcat race if you just take a glance at your GPS and see what kind of maneuvers and loops and all the stuff that it's doing. It's like,
Yep.
this is a bobcat race, but
That happened a time or two.
she puts up. She's really good on bobcats. If I put her on a bobcat track in the wintertime, she does extremely well. She's really accurate. She's got a solid amount of speed. She just does everything really well. And if there's a little bit of a loss, she's a lot quicker to figure something out and cliffs or whatever it is. She's just very solid, very accurate, and does everything exceptionally well. So yeah, she would be, the top dog.
Mhm. I remember you telling me a story like how she treed, hours before everything else.
Yeah, that was this past cat season actually. So there was this big tom that I had seen once earlier this season. I saw his track, and I turned loose on him, and they trailed him from from where it was, and they headed over across this creek and went up, and I watched them go across this big open hillside. Well, by this time, they were on this private land that we wouldn't be able to harvest anything off of. And I looked at about 400 something yards in front of them. And I was just scanning that hillside. It's a lot more open country than it is in North Idaho. And they were trailing along, barking. And on that side of the hill, there wasn't any snow, so they came from snow to no snow, and they were barking. And I looked for like 400 yards in front of them, and here comes a mountain lion that was bedded down under this tree, and it popped up, and it just bailed off the other side of the ridge. And I was like, oh shoot, like now they're well within that ranch, and if they get to that spot where that mountain lion was bedded down and it's jumped, there's going to be no calling them off. So I better start calling them right now. So I was 1,000 yards away from them, and I started calling them back across to me, and I got him to come all the way to me. And I tried to find that cat's track for multiple times throughout the season, but the cards, it just didn't play out right for a while. He was either staying on the ranch or he was somewhere else. So when I drove through that area, I wasn't seeing his track. I had hunted a different area, a different unit, the one of the days, and I ran into a local at the gas station, and he told me after I hunted that area, he told me where he had found a mountain lion track, and where he had described it was a spot that Tom had crossed like a month before. So I I was like, oh shoot, I missed it, because I'd already wasted. I mean, you spent that whole day hunting in a different area, and I could have been over there. Had I gone there, I could have turned loose on that nice fresh track. So the next day, I decided to go back to that area, go right to where he said he saw the track, and I was hoping maybe he'd cut back out and I would find the fresh into the track. And I didn't. I just found that same old track that person had spotted the day before, and I turned loose on it. Um, the reason I did it, I know a lot of people that would just pass up a track that looked like that, and I always tell my clients, I'm just gonna put the dog down and let the dog tell me if they're capable of taking it. There's no sense in passing up a track because you think the dogs can't take it versus just putting them down and see if they don't take it, just move on and try and find another track. So I put them down, and we're in a little bit of snow on our side. But right when you get down to the bottom of this draw, and right when they cross that draw immediately, there's no snow on that other side. So they drop down there, they cross that draw, and right when they transition from that snow to the other side and cross that, there was a little bit of trouble briefly, and then Annie ended up pulling out. She climbed up these cliffs and worked all the way, a long ways across this hillside, going all the way across this face, working back up on the ridge, going across and dropping back down. And after a long time, covering a lot of ground, she ended up getting it jumped. And I was hearing her, open up throughout, but she ended up getting it jumped and treeing it. And those other dogs, for whatever reason, they were moving it a lot slower. Like they were hung up in the spot for a while and was trying to sort that out. They ended up moving out. Well, we had showed up to the tree with Annie there. She was the only one there, and we showed up there. It, it was a nice Tom. It actually had its head was kind of, I don't know what happened to it. It had an injury at some point. Maybe it got hit by a vehicle or something, but its head was like concave, um, and then it had pretty much healed, was almost completely healed up. But it was a nice Tom, and that client had taken that Tom. We took pictures, for a while. Spent quite a bit of time there, and got it out, skinned it out, quartered it up, got it in the pack. And I was listening to the other dogs, especially Abel, that train horn, just every so often, Peter along, and I look on the GPS. They're coming right along that track that Annie's on, and open it up every so often, and they ended up coming across. And when they got to about a little bit before where Annie jumped it, they started picking up a lot more speed on the track, and then they crossed the creek and they came all the way up to the tree. But that was almost 3 hours later after Annie had treed it. It was amazing to me that I mean, I saw she started pulling ahead, but I would never have imagined that she was gonna tree that cat 3 hours before they did.
Oh yeah. Now was that really big cat, or was that a different one?
I don't know, that very big cat was the last one or second to last one I had gotten. Some of the guides had told me about this cat, where this area, and like specifically where he works and whatnot. He likes to work along this snow line, and pretty much everything below is no snow. And so they told me where I could find him, and I guess they had been after him, for the last 4 years. And when they would either be a day behind him, or they would find him and turn loose on his track. And he would always take this dog all through these cliffs. And they told me what was going to happen if you end up on him. Like, he's going to try and lose the dogs on this cliff. And I found his track, and I think I have parts of the video on my YouTube channel, Screaming Eagle Outdoors.
Mhm.
I do have that, and you can even see Annie trailing across the hillside on that cat. But they cold trailed it out of the ways, and they dropped down, and they crossed over the top of this other ridge, and they moved on out, and then they were looping back around to close to the area where I turned loose at, and then I heard him. I could tell when I got jumped, and he tried to lose him through them cliffs. I mean, just dropping elevation like crazy, just bombing down these cliffs, going through it, climb up this other side and popped up trees, and they were just hammered. And that was definitely the biggest mountain lion I've ever seen, and dead or alive. It's a monster.
So people talk about 200-pound cats. I can tell you, if there's a 200-pound cat, it was this one. And I really wish you would
Yeah,
have gotten
yeah. I
a
mean,
legit weight, because this sucker
it wa-
was giant.
it would have been nice to know the weight, because I do know that people all the time overestimate the weight of cats. Like,
Mhm.
it, they're just throwing an estimation, so they might have a solid 165-pound cat, and then thinking it's a 200-pound cat, and yeah, it's more than likely that is not the case. This is the biggest cat I've ever seen, and he was a hog. I don't know what he weighed, but I do know that a lot people say a lot of the times that, oh, look at this 200-pound cat, and I know they're not 200-pound cats, but I also know this cat was much bigger than those ones.
Oh yeah, this thing was
So
huge.
it would have been nice to weigh him, but he died down in this draw that was like thornier than heck, like just so bad, so thorny, and it was also a decent hike back up and steep to where the side by side was, so there
Mhm.
wasn't any getting it out whole, so I had to skin it and quarter it and whatnot, and but he was shot with a bow. He was Pope and Young.
Nice.
I don't know what the official score ended up being. I know that at the time the green score was right close to um, this would be the green score, but it was right close to the #1 world record for Pope and Young.
Wow,
But
that's pretty
I'll have
cool.
to find out on that. What the official score ended up being.
Mhm.
Yeah, big cat, regardless. He's Pope and
Oh
Young.
yeah, this is the cat. Like when you book a hunt and you want like the trophy tom, this is the cat you want.
Yeah, and this client, he was about my age, and he said he had previously been on 4 or 5 mountain lion hunts, and they were all in British Columbia. He hunted over there, I think, 4 different times, and so I think this was his 5th one. But he'd never even taken a cat before. He was in BC on several hunts, and he never harvested a cat.
Jeez.
And he ended up taking this one, and he textbook smoked that cat with his bow. I mean, he had perfect shot, and it flew out of the tree, and it just
Mhm.
dove downhill. It didn't go super far, but it was just getting some downhill momentum, and it piled up
Mhm.
in that draw, and that super thorny.
No, and you got a pretty cool video of it. Like you set up on your YouTube channel, Screaming Eagle Outdoors,
Yeah,
so people can actually see that cat. And granted, I know we talked about it before, and you said he's a little darker looking because it was muddy, but I think even cleaned up, he's probably still a hair on the darker side. Just the pictures that you showed me.
yeah. I have one picture where he doesn't look quite as dark, but yeah, the one picture where he's standing up and holding it,
Mhm.
it looks like a lot of people think it's a fake cat, but I had to drag it out of that draw and got it like super muddy, dirty, and everything. And this guy's holding it up, and it looks like almost black, like it's so dark from all the mud on it.
Yeah,
But we had to get it out of that draw so we can actually get a picture of him holding it up. But he was a toad, that's for sure.
definitely. So, how was your bear season? I know we talked in the spring, like I said, and so I really haven't heard about your bear season.
Yeah, bear season was phenomenal. I mean, so me personally, I mean, so we were doing like we were doing some hound hunting and then doing some bait hunting, and if I remember correctly, I'm pretty positive I actually didn't have a single client take a bear off of a bait, and I think that it just happened to be that when I would take them hound hunting, they would end up getting a bear with the dogs before they had a chance at one sitting in the blind. So we would put them in the blind in their evening hunt or a tree stand for the evening hunt, and then the other guide and I that both had hounds, we would take our clients out on a morning hunt with the dogs, and it just happened that none of my clients got one sitting off of bait. We got all of them with the dogs, and
Very cool.
yeah, put up a lot of bears. It was nice to hunt different terrain, different country than what it is up in North Idaho. It's completely different over there. So it's really nice to have that diversity and be able to hunt a different area, put the dogs through different types of terrain.
Oh yeah, definitely. What percentage would you say of like color phase versus black bears do you have?
And if I'm not mistaken, Idaho has the highest percentage of color phase bears in the nation. Over there in North Idaho, we have, I can't think of a percentage off the top of my head, but it's well over 50%. The majority of the bears you're going to see. I think I maybe saw a couple black ones like during the season. The majority of them were color phase, either a dark chocolate or just a standard chocolate or a blondish in color or cinnamon. We have a lot of color phase bears. And some people specifically come hunting over here or with us because of the fact that they want a color phase bear. We had these guys, or this husband and wife, I believe they were from West Virginia. They have shot bears, and they said like every single one they've ever gotten has been solid black. And if you're lucky,
Yep.
you'll get something with a white patch on his chest if you're lucky. But they just always got black ones when they wanted a color phase bear. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of them over here.
That's been my experience. I think I've seen 2 pictures that they're supposedly in Pennsylvania, and they're color phase bear. But otherwise, every bear I've ever seen harvested on the East Coast is black. And like you said, you might get some white, but that is the closest thing to color as you're gonna get.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would it'd be nice to maybe do some research and figure out exactly what it is that has changed that. But I do know, generally speaking, our bears are definitely a lot leaner over here. Like you have Pennsylvania and several other states where they just have some big tanks, but they also have a lot of agricultural land, and you might have a big corn-fed bear that just becomes massive, 600 plus pounds.
Yeah, and they just don't let us run dogs.
So I would say the average bear I treat, is about 160 pounds. We still do get big bears, but our big bear and a big bear over there are 2 totally different things. I assume a big part of that is because of the rugged terrain and mountains we have, 1, and 2, because of our long, harsh winters. So they have to spend a great period of time hibernating, and then they're burning up a lot of their fat reserves that they built up in the fall. So they just don't have the opportunity to grow.
I know that's basically the case with North Carolina, coastal North Carolina, from what the guys I've talked to. Is how the big bears are down there, is feeding off corn and peanuts and whatever. But I know in PA, we get a lot of big bears because up until like last year, we've had very limited season. Not allowed to use bait, not allowed to use hounds. So it's all basically tree stand, opportunistic hunting, or drives. So just different management.
Yeah, so I mean, you're getting bears that are able to mature, and they obviously have different genetics and their food sources and everything. I mean, I've shot a 30, I think it was right at 30-year-old sow.
I was about to say, I knew that one sow was real old.
18-year-old boar, 30-year-old sow, 16-year-old boar, 14-year-old, and then 5, 6, 9-year-olds. But so it's amazing because of the opportunity that we have for bear hunting, whether with dogs or bait hunting, that there still are bears of that age out here. Yeah,
definitely. I guess I killed my bear right after I met you. I guess. Yeah. He was like 3, so he wasn't very old.
The average age of a mountain lion in Idaho is they don't live as long as a bear, from what I understand. But the average age of one that's harvested is pretty young.
I believe it.
Yeah, we got fairly long. I mean, a really long season. Most of the time, people only go out when there's snow on the ground, but we have basically like 9 months out of the year that you can harvest a mountain lion in Idaho, or in certain units.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long.
It's really long. It's not open like during rifle season. For like elk hunting, that they have it closed down then. but it opens back up in November, and it's like November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, and July. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I know you said you've treated some incidentally while you're bear hunting and stuff. I just didn't realize like season was actually still in at that point.
Yeah, it's still open. And then you get incidental trees. I've never taken one when it wasn't winter. If I'm hunting myself, I would prefer to just watch the dogs work, whether I'm bear hunting or cat hunting. If I'm going by myself, I get just as much enjoyment out of watching the dogs and then just turning it loose. And I'll have to start doing that more. I think I made a couple videos that made it up on my recent YouTube channel, but I'll definitely get into more of that, tree and free videos and some harvesting stuff
Yeah.
and a variety of different things, mostly hounds, but I will probably have some packing type videos and whatnot.
Good deal. Look forward to seeing it. Well, I won't hold you up. I know you're sitting alongside the road because you had a busy day.
Yeah, just
and you just pulled over to talk to me.
Cramming to get everything done. It's been good chatting with you, that's for sure.
I really appreciate it, Brian. Like I said, we're definitely gonna have to get together and do some more hunting.
Absolutely.
I've had fun when you've come this way, and one of these days I definitely want to get out there.
Awesome. Well, it was good talking to you, Ben, and we'll keep in touch, and I'm sure we'll be doing another one of these here in the near future.
Oh, I'm sure. So, thank you very much.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep 'em talking in the timber.